Am I the butthole for not allowing my ex to see our infant daughter because of what she did? Hi. I'm male, 19 and a single dad to a 5-week-old baby. I'm gonna get right into this. My ex, 20 female, and I had been dating for 5 months when she got pregnant. We stayed together and 5 weeks ago our daughter was born. She was so precious and it was instant love I felt for her. I took paternity leave and things were going good until my uncle passed away when our daughter was a few old. The funeral was 3 hours away. We talked about it and agreed that I would go, stay for the funeral, and then drive back. So I did this. For reference, baby girl was 11 days old. When I got back her car was gone. I head inside and hear baby girl crying. I walked into the nursery and found my daughter with a soaking wet, I'm talking entire outfit was soaked including through her swaddle blanket, poopy diaper, huge diaper rash. I got her right into a bath to get her cleaned up, took pictures of the rash to show the doc because my mom has told me that I'd have this mystery rash that would clear up right before a doc visit, and then made her a bottle. She typically has 4 ounces of formula. She had 6 before sleeping again. I then tried calling my now ex. When she didn't answer after 4 tries I started calling her friends. Finally one of them answered. They had just gotten out of a spa. She had spent 5 hours at the spa, that is a 40-minute drive in good traffic from our place, getting who knows what done. I was seeing red and didn't care, still don't. Friend handed the phone over to GF and I asked/yelled why she left our daughter home alone. She said that she didn't think it would be a big deal because all she does is sleep anyway. I told her to come and get her stuff. All of it would be on the porch and that I didn't want to see her again. She tried to call me again and ring the doorbell but I didn't answer. A report was made and she's being made to take parenting classes after she claimed to be overwhelmed. I am working with a child support/custody lawyer but that date isn't till next month. Today her mom called me and said I needed to forgive her because every new mom makes small mistakes and it's okay because she turned out alright. That I'm an ass because I'm keeping a newborn baby from her mom. I told her that there was no way I was going to let her have access to her again. Then hung up the phone. My friend mentioned that it wouldn't hurt anything if I let her visit while I'm around but I don't think that would be a good thing as I'm still on the verge of losing my cool with this. Am I the butthole for not letting my ex see our newborn daughter? Edit to add. Didn't expect this to blow up. To answer some questions I do have an emergency temp custody order. She was charged and arrested but got out on bail. I will be talking to my lawyer about this tomorrow. I also just sent a text to my ex and her family that I will only be communicating through text messages with them from now on. Not the butthole. I think her custody is best left decided through the court at this point. What she did isn't a small mistake, it's actually horrifying. She also may be suffering from PPA or PPD, so it's best to let professionals handle this situation. Not the butthole. 5 hours is not a mistake. 5 hours for a 5-week-old baby is child neglect. There were options if she was feeling overwhelmed. You did the right thing. When you seek out custody, try for supervised visits. You're going to be a great dad. Edit, sorry, she was 11 days old. That's even worse. Every new mom makes small mistakes. Ahem. Leaving a newborn unsupervised for 5 hours, just to get to the spa is not a small mistake. What in the world was she thinking about? Not the butthole. And maybe report this to the authorities in charge of such matter. This was not a small mistake. She left an 11-day-old infant alone and unattended for hours. She is an active danger to the baby and you keep her far away from that child until you get an explicit court order that tells you otherwise. Not the butthole. Am I the butthole for sending my niece to go live with her other uncle? My SIL passed away 12 years and my brother passed away 4 years ago. They had a daughter who is 13 years old now. After my brother passed away, both me and my SIL's brother tried to adopt my niece, but as my niece didn't have much of a relationship with her mom's family, I was obviously the better option, so I ended up adopting her. Recently my niece has got this very annoying habit that whenever we have a disagreement she says she would rather go and live with her other uncle. I know she doesn't mean it because 1. She barely knows her other uncle. 2. I have a high-paying job and I'm able to provide things that most people aren't able to provide, so she is too spoiled to be able to live with anyone else. About a week ago at Happy Again she told me she wants to live with her other uncle. This time I told her to go pack a bag. She went to her room. An hour later I went to her room and asked her if she is ready. She said she didn't mean what she said and doesn't really want to go. I told her that she should go anyway, she'll stay for a week and then she can tell me if she wants to stay there or come back home. She insisted that she already knows where she wants to stay, but I told her to get in the car and drove her there. After a week I called and asked if she wants to come home and she said yes, however she hasn't been talking to me. My family heard what happened and now everyone is mad at me and thinks I'm in butthole. I had this upbringing. I was adopted by relatives who would pull this "I don't have to keep you" crap anytime I was a normal bratty adolescent. Now I have abandonment issues. You're the butthole. I know she doesn't mean it because 1. She barely knows her other uncle. 2. I have a high-paying job and I'm able to provide things that most people aren't able to provide, so she is too spoiled to be able to live with anyone else. You created this problem with her because you spoiled her instead of parenting her. You're the butthole. Am I the butthole for getting upset that my future SIL and brother-in-law are coming with their kids to my wedding? My fiancé and I are getting married in April. We decided to have a child-free wedding celebration. This means no kids at the rehearsal and wedding. My fiancé's brother and wife live about 6 hours away. They have 2 kids. My wife's parents live in the same town as the wedding. They are coming in the Wednesday before the wedding since there will be stuff Thursday, Friday, and Saturday day of the wedding. Instead of staying at the hotel to partake in all the wedding festivities, they are going to stay at her parents', since her parents volunteered to help with kids during the wedding. However, there are some events that my future SIL will miss. Like the girls' party Thursday night, since my future brother-in-law will be the bachelor night. She will also miss the bridal luncheon Friday morning to watch her kids. My wedding is child-free. I got upset and said if they can't find a babysitter where they live to watch kids, they shouldn't even come. My wedding celebration is child-free and certain events are being impacted by kids. My future brother-in-law and SIL are mad and said they're doing the best they can. They are still going to bring their kids to town when they are in town for the wedding. You're the butthole. You expect them to leave their kids for 4 to 5 days and travel 6 hours away, to attend your parties? They will be there for the very important events. They have made arrangements for their children to honor your no-child requirement. You're mad at them because they're going to miss a bridal lunch and a girls' party? Definitely, you're the butthole. Grow up. You're the butthole. Take a seat and brace yourself, because I have something to say that will shock you. The world doesn't revolve around you. Even when you're getting married. Your wedding isn't a week-long event. As long as they aren't bringing their kids to the rehearsal or actual wedding, they're not doing anything wrong and your opinion isn't necessary. Would I be the butthole if I asked my roommates to move out of my apartment rather than myself? The apartment complex I live in is extremely convenient. It's close to stores and restaurants, and directly across the street from several transit stops, which makes my commute to work pretty easy. I just get on train and I'm there. The rent isn't horrible, it's a 2-bedroom and I pay $1,850 in a large city. The view is also pretty incredible. I've lived in this apartment for 4 years now with my roommate Mark. We both signed together. I think you know where this is going. Mark got a girlfriend and they want to move in together, which I said I was fine with, but they want to be alone. They asked if I would move out at the end of the lease. Both Mark and his GF work within walking distance of the building, but my work is across the river, about a 10-minute ride. I'm fairly certain I can find a place closer to my work, but I honestly do not want to move out. It wouldn't be in as nice of an area, definitely not as close to shops, and definitely not as good of a deal. I'm honestly fine with Mark and his GF living here, but they don't want me to live with them anymore. Would I be the butthole if I said that if they want to live alone, they need to move? Not the butthole. The person who wants to change the status quo needs to leave. Contact your landlord now and let him know your intent to resign the lease alone and make him aware that you're financially capable and qualify for the lease solo. If that's not the case, you may lose the apartment to the couple. Make your claim quietly and quickly. Am I the butthole for telling my husband my daughter doesn't have to accommodate his needs? My daughter is a second year in college and although she lives at the dorms, during finals she comes home to learn quietly. My husband, not her bio dad, has changed jobs and works full-time from home now. I go to work from the office every day so they're in the house by themselves. They've always gotten along fairly good. There's respect, understanding and trust from each other's part. I don't know if there's love, but I can't push it. Husband met daughter too late to represent a father figure for her and she never seeked him like that, so he didn't push it. Lately, my daughter complained that husband would put her to work, in disregard of the fact that she's learning. She would stay in her room to study and at some point husband would knock saying, "Hey, I just had lunch, could you please clean up the table? I'm starting a meeting." Or I spilled some water, mind wiping it, I gotta focus on work. She told me she feels like he doesn't care about her learning time and he doesn't acknowledge she is also working. She told me she wouldn't have minded if it was a one-time occurrence, but it has become a habit of his. To make sure of it, I asked daughter to not clean up next time he asks. I caught him red-handed this time. When I came home to the dirty table, I asked husband about it and he said, well, daughter, should have cleaned it up. Daughter said she didn't even have lunch today. They don't always eat together. Sometimes one is hungry and one is not, and she didn't have time to clean up the table. I jumped at my husband, telling him daughter has exams and came here to learn, not to clean up after him. He tried to defend himself saying he had an urgent meeting. I told him he could have came to clean up afterwards and mentioned I know it's not the first time it's happening. My husband sighed and said he thought it's not a big deal for my daughter to spare a couple minutes to quickly put the dishes in the dishwasher or something like that. Daughter said that if he thinks it could be done so quickly, why didn't he do it? I had to break the argument and determine that everyone cleans up after themselves. Later, my husband told me in private that he felt like I humiliated him in front of my daughter. I told him to grow up and stop acting like daughter will pick up after his mess. He got upset. Am I the butthole? Why not the butthole? Your husband is being very sexist and entitled. Why should your daughter clean up his mess? That's crazy. Not the butthole, your husband is an adult and can do these things himself. I assume your daughter does them for herself? When your daughter isn't home, what does he do? Bet he cleans up after himself then, right? My read on this is a combination of she's younger than me and she's female so she has to do these things because I asked, though I could be wrong on that. Not the butthole. And you need to ask why he thinks it's okay to treat your daughter as his servant. Am I the butthole for calling out my wife's adult son to stop wearing crazy revealing clothes in front of my family? I'm writing this for me and my family. Me, 38 male, and my wife Alice, 37 female, have been together for 7 years. We have a couple of twins, both 6M, and we're a very happy family. My wife also has a son, Luke, 19 male. He got an athletic college scholarship but he dropped out and he's currently pursuing a career as a musician in another city. He stays in our home whenever he visits for holidays or vacations. Luke's very tall so it is difficult for him to go unnoticed. When I say revealing clothes I mean that he wears thigh shorts, so tight you can see his boxers, crop tops, women blouses. I mean, it is very distracting as his pubes and trail are very visible. One time I catched him wearing a skirt while watching TV in our living room. I gave him a disapproving look and all he said to me was, man, you know we're Irish, don't you? Which is a crazy thing to say, and I think kilts are from Scotland anyway, but that's not the point. In another instance, he would sit for dinner with a pearl necklace, eyeshadow and a fur coat. For example, my mother and sisters and their kids visited us for Christmas and they agreed that it was odd to have a guy dressing like that around the house. Especially in front of so many women. A few weeks ago after Christmas dinner, I talked to Luke and voiced my concerns, and he was like, okay Cap, no problem, and okay sir. Yes sir. Copy that, sir, clearly mocking me. I must admit I got angry and I yelled at him. I went to vent out my frustration with my wife. However, she didn't back me up or take me seriously, even when I raised my concerns about our boys seeing his older brother acting a fool. I checked her phone and she was texting with Luke, again just joking and making fun of me. Luke texted her something like, not your husband body shaming me, lol. I didn't get the Hugo Boss dress code memo and my wife replied, follow the dress code young man or you'll be executed at midnight. I don't make the rules babe, I'm sorry 20. I got so mad I gave both of them the silent treatment for the rest of the holidays. Alice tried to talk me down by saying that he's not wearing anything around the house he wouldn't be wearing in public, so our boys would be seeing that style sooner or later whether we liked it or not. She was condescending, like she was talking to an angry old man from another century. I don't know. I don't feel like I was asking something unreasonable and I felt they were bullying me for expressing a reasonable concern about what my twins and my family are seeing in their own home. Our home. My home. And at the end of the day, it is my house, my rules too. Am I the butthole? TLDR, I asked my wife's son to dress more properly in my house and he mocked me and my concerns. My wife didn't back me up and made fun of me. You're the butthole. We know because you said this was about him dressing revealingly. But you still had a problem when he was covered up at Christmas dinner, when a pearl necklace is totally appropriate, I might add. Your problem is not that it's revealing, but that it's gender non-conforming. She was condescending, like she was talking to an angry old man from another century. You're the butthole, you are an angry old man. Luckily Luke sounds like he has a great relationship with his mom. Plus you're my house, my rules is bullcrap. It's also your wife's house, so why doesn't she have a say in the rules? Am I the butthole for saying my sister doesn't have to dictate what I do in my own home after she insisted on setting the table for dinner? Using a throwaway. I'm 42, the eldest of 8 siblings. This concerns my youngest sister Alina, 23. Me and my husband have 2 kids, 16 and 13. Alina's staying with us for 4 months because she started at a new college, and she needs some time to sort out housing. She's been here for a couple of weeks so far. Last night she made dinner for everyone. She said she wanted to. The way dinner usually works in my household is I dish up the food, then my kids take it to their rooms to eat. We obviously have family dinner too, but this is just more convenient for all of us as we don't have to spend time setting the table every day, and we can eat at different times if needed. Also, by different times I don't mean someone eats at 7 p.m. and someone eats at 3 a.m., just a small gap. I know this isn't for everyone and that's okay, but this is what works for our family. Alina knows this. So last night she made fried dumplings, orange chicken, fried rice and chocolate cake for dessert. I went into the kitchen to thank her and saw her setting the table. I told Alina she doesn't need to do that and will take food from the pot. My 13-year-old started saying she was hungry, so I went to get food since everything was done, but Alina stopped me and said to wait a few minutes and we'll eat together. Again I told her that's not how it really works here. One of my kids is hungry now, but my 16-year-old usually eats a bit later. Alina then said she was going to serve the dumplings first, then chicken and rice and cake after. I repeated to her, again, we can get the main food at once, cake later, and if anyone wants seconds will come and get it, it's fine, no need to set the table. She looked upset and said she wants to have a nice dinner together and involve the kids. I had enough at this point, so I told her I know my kids and family, she doesn't have to dictate what we do on my home. My husband saw what was going on and told Alina thanks, but we know how to serve ourselves. Alina eventually understood, but she was acting sulky, and giving me the cold shoulder this morning. Am I the butthole? You're the butthole. Your sister made a 3-course meal and wanted to eat together. Would it be such a big deal to break the disjointed mealtime tradition just once? Tell her I'll sit at the table and eat all that. You're the butthole. This was her way of showing appreciation, to you and your family. And you kinda threw it back in her face. Also, you're teaching your children some really bad habits with eating. They'll carry this behavior on, and that will cause issues for them in the future with most outside your walls. Family meal times are an important part of growing up and understanding social situations. You're the butthole, you and your husband. You're completely ungrateful for what your sister was trying to do for you all, and I expect she was greatly upset. Are you always so insensitive? Sounds to me that the dinner arrangements your sister made is exactly what you lot need. Do you all hate being together so much that you can't cope with having even one meal together? This has to be one of the more pathetic "Am I the butthole" posts I've read for a while. Am I the butthole for not helping my mom financially because of how she treated me compared to my brother growing up? Ever since I, 25 female, could remember, my mom has always showed favoritism to my brother, 21 male, and treated us differently. She basically babied the crap out of him all my life. She'd do everything for him, cook, clean up after him, whatever he wanted she'd get for him, etc. If my brother and I got into a fight, she'd almost always take his side over mine. If my brother did something wrong, she'd always drag me into the situation and discipline me too for whatever reason. If I got so angry with my brother, because growing up he was a little crap, and I started yelling at him, she'd get mad at me for yelling at him and not the action he did to make me upset. If my brother asked me something and I said no, she'd get mad at me for saying no. When I was 18 she started charging me rent. My brother is 21 and lives with her rent-free. When I was 18 I started working at my dad's business. Parents are divorced, and ever since then the treatment from my mom got worse. She was always short with me, made passive-aggressive comments all the time to me, and just clearly didn't want to see me succeed. When I was 20 I moved out of my mom's and went to stay with my dad, which extremely offended her, and the relationship was never the same. We had very LC. Fast forward to today, I pretty much run my dad's business. Dad is semi-retired and travels between my country and his home country every month. I make good money here at the business, own my own condo, have a new car I paid for myself, and I'm just overall doing good. Ever since I can remember my mom has had financial issues. She's always lived check to check and can't save money. The past few months my mom's been contacting me more. Last week she asked if we can have a serious conversation. She explained to me that she can see that I'm doing well for myself and she needs money. She had a lot of debt and possibly could lose her house. She said she asked my dad for money, and he refused. I asked her why she doesn't ask her husband. She's remarried, but they don't live together because she refuses to let him move in. Whole other story. She started going off on me saying that's her business and she's asking me, not him. I said no, you treat my like a boss growing up, barely contact me, and now you want me to give you money? She said after all the things she did for me growing up, this is the least I could do for her. She's been telling my other family members how I said no and they've been up my ass messaging and calling me saying it's the right thing to do, and to have come compassion. Even my brother has been telling me how that's so cold that I refuse to help her, because financially I'm in a good place. I feel like crap because my mom could possibly lose her house, but I feel like that's not my responsibility and I'm being taken advantage of if I say yes. Am I the butthole? When your family texts you say, "You have given a lot to think about. Thank you for reaching out and giving my mom money. She'll be so happy to hear about your support." When they freak out, say, "Wait, you are not giving my mom money? Then why are you reaching out?" It's a bit weird to tell someone to give money to family when you are not giving money to family. Regardless, there's no need to worry. I totally get no one is entitled to your money. Thank you for understanding. Not the butthole big time. You don't have to do anything, as you said, it's not your responsibility. You did very well managing to get out of the bad environment you had at home. Maybe if she lost her house she would finally decide to go live with her husband? Am I the butthole for telling my brother-in-law to get over himself and to quit holding a 10-year-old grudge? My brother-in-law, married to my sister, is a general contractor. About 10 years ago, my dad and brother was building a deck at my parents' home. They asked my brother-in-law if they could borrow his skid loader but he said no. They prepared the ground as best they could without the skid loader but got to the point they couldn't go on without it. They went to my sis's house to ask again but found out brother-in-law went out of town. They talked my sis into letting them borrow it so she took them down to his construction lot and they hooked it up to dad's truck. This next part I'm not sure of since I don't know much about towing, but from what I was told, dad's truck wasn't big enough or powerful enough to tow the skid loader on the dump trailer so he lost control and wrecked. The truck, trailer, and skid loader was totaled. The insurance was barely enough to cover the medical costs and the truck. There was none left over to cover brother-in-law's stuff. When he got back to town, he exploded. He threatened to sue and things just went downhill from there. My parents are not rich and he wouldn't have gotten anything, so in the end, sis talked him into letting it go. However, from that day on he wouldn't have anything to do with our family. He doesn't come for birthdays, holidays, nothing at all. Next month is our parents' 50th anniversary and we're planning a big family gathering to celebrate. We're also chipping in to send our parents on a cruise to Mexico because they've never been out of the country. I spoke to sis about it the other day and she said she's coming with the kids but brother-in-law is not coming. I was fine with that, but when we were discussing their portion of the cruise money, I heard him yelling in the background to deduct their portion from the cost of the skid loader and dump trailer. That pissed me off, so after my call with sis, I called brother-in-law and told him to get over himself. I told dad and bro made a mistake but that was 10 years ago and he needs to let it go. He said he'll let out go when they give him the money he lost. I told him he's an ass for holding on to a grudge and putting money in the way of a family relationship. Sis called me a few minutes ago and said they're not coming and that I was out of line. We argued for a bit and that's where it stands. I don't think I'm wrong for telling him to let go of the past, but they're not coming to the anniversary party, so now I'm not sure. Answers to your questions. Let's get something straight. My dad and brother are not bad people. They are good people who made a mistake. They couldn't pay back brother-in-law because he wanted almost $70,000 and again, we're not rich. Dad had to buy another truck because he needed it to go to work. On the other hand, brother-in-law had 3 other sets of skid loaders and dump trailers on his lot that day so he could take the financial hit while my parents would be homeless. Brother-in-law and sis are way better off than the rest of us, so while I understand your reasoning of paying brother-in-law back, he doesn't need it. The cruise to Mexico isn't some millionaire trip. The total cost is about $3,000 and it'll take over 20 people to pay for that. Again, we're not rich. We can barely cover $3,000 spread out over 20 people, so there's no way we can pay $70,000. You're the butthole. Your family stole $50K plus in work equipment from your brother-in-law. They didn't pay him back, by the sounds of it, showed zero remorse, and he should just get over it? You and your family sound massively entitled. Your brother-in-law is smart to cut the lot of you clean off. You're the butthole. So are your parents. They shouldn't have stolen his property, and yes, it was theft. They should have made him whole before replacing their own property. They should have apologized. They should have given him the money back at some point over the last 10 years. Would have considered ESH if your parents had made any effort to take responsibility. So your parents stole a very expensive piece of equipment, broke it, didn't pay him back, and now you're asking him for money to send these people on a cruise? Did I get that right? Greater than I told him he's an ass for holding on to a grudge and putting money in the way of a family relationship. Isn't that what your dad and brother and you did? You're the butthole. And your dad. And your brother. So y'all have the funds to pay for an expensive cruise, but a decade later can't pay him back. Your family fricked with his livelihood and clearly don't give a flying frick how it has impacted him, so why should he want to be around you?